Hi, I'm Fane Butte. I am the Business Development Director at Mako Medical Laboratories, where we do research as well as clinical environment for patients with doctors. And then I also worked for Merck Pharmaceuticals for 2 years, where we, of course, had pharmaceuticals that were researched through the FDA for approval.
Okay, thank you. So on to the first question. Do you think testing on animals should be allowed?
Yes, I believe that testing on animals should be allowed. It's a very highly regulated environment, so the animals are treated as humanely as possible, but being able to test on animals has provided us life-saving treatments for humans. And so I do believe that being able to test on a living organism to see how a medication will respond and the toxicity levels before a human gets tested is critical.
Okay. So going off your last answer about the effectiveness of the testing, would you say that testing on human cells would be more effective than using animals that are alive?
I think there's definitely a debate about that currently. I think at this point, we've been studying animals for a long time, before you and I ever walked the earth, before Jesus walked the earth. And so that's been our way of studying animals, or studying how medications can help people. So there is a debate out there. I think currently it's demonstrated that the human cells do not show exactly the process and how, what the levels are as far as the medications and the toxicity. And the FDA currently requires, which is our federal government, that approves these medications, their current stance is that we use animal testing, and it's required before the drug is even allowed to be moved on to the next phase. So I think the federal government probably would be on top of this. So at this point, I would agree it needs to be a live animal.
Okay, so the next question, do you think that animals such as rats, mice, fish, and birds are as important as other animals?
As important in regards to testing?
Yes.
Like as compared to, say, dogs?
Rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters.
I would say that animals, obviously you're exactly right. There is a Welfare Act that was passed, and it's very stringent regarding how these animals can be treated. There are many medical research facilities that actually have playtime if it's a dog, to give them a nice environment. They have committees that are required to oversee the treatment of the animals, and then the AWA comes in and audits these places. Obviously, those animals are typically, they're not catching them from the wild. These are animals that have been bred specifically for research. And so I will say that animals don't have the cognitive or ability or morals, and so they don't have rights. And because of that, I think that we should be able to do research on them, because it's for the betterment of humans, because we do have the cognitive ability and to understand kind of what we're doing and why we're doing it. If we gave animals rights, obviously, we would all have to become vegetarians, and we couldn't eat meat. So I think all animals that are approved for research, just kind of fall under the same spectrum.
Okay, well, under the Animal Welfare Act, there's about 95% of the animals that are used to research on, such as rats, mice, fish, and birds, aren't covered under the same protection that animals such as hamsters, guinea pigs, dogs, cats are under. Do you think that's okay?
Again, I do think it's okay. I think because we are creating life-saving treatments for, like, for example, HIV, which is now people are living in, their entire lives because of the development of the antivirals. Cancer treatments, people are beating cancers that were never beat before. So, I think that, I think humans come before the animals, and obviously we should treat them humanely, but yes, I think if they're bred, I don't think they should be captured from the wild. I don't think that dogs should be stolen out of people's backyards. If they're bred for research, then yeah, the same, whatever, if the Welfare Act only applies to a certain part of this animal population that can be researched on, then yes, I agree that the other ones, if it's been designated that way, I say it's okay.
Okay, so what impact has animal testing made on your life?
I think one thing that we haven't touched on is the benefit to animals for animal testing. All of the vaccines that our dogs, we have 3 dogs, and they've all have to receive vaccines. Rabies is the biggest one, distemper. So those are diseases that our dogs are now protected from getting because of animal testing. And then, of course, there are many more. You think of livestock. There's a story about the koala bears who had an epidemic of a sexually transmitted disease, which was able to be treated because of animal testing. And koala bears are a protected species. And that's the animal side. And then, of course, humans. We talked a minute ago about cancer treatments, extending life, quality of life. HIV, which killed people 20 years ago, is now, people are living with the disease and living good, long lives. So I guess in conclusion, I think animal testing is very important. And until we can truly find a different way that can do it, then we have to stick with the live organism to watch the beginning to the end.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.